Hey everyone, welcome to Dalibel Podcast, episode 88. This week, we actually took a topic from one of our viewers, and it'll be a portion of this episode, which is
Okay.
how worthless the college education system is here in the United States. And that there's a lot of factors that go into this because we're dealing with stuff here in Houston. But I know that for me, for this topic, I look at the fact of like I have friends on different sides of the spectrum that went to college, became doctors or nurses, or and I have people that did not go to college who became, global trainers for certain companies. They've really kind of excelled and they've progressed without that education, without that cost. So, like, my sister went to school for culinary, but she's doing something completely different now. So it's like, do we waste our time going to get this education that costs us so much that we're having to pay for a long period of time? Or, maybe we just go to get certifications, technical schools, things like that to help further our careers. So I know for me, I did go to school for film. I didn't finish, but then I started changing my stuff towards computers. And then most of my stuff has been hands-on and I've been working to getting some of my certifications. So as a person who's a father, I don't know. I will save money for Edward to be able to go to school, but I don't know if that's the direction he's want to go because of the way the times are changing, the world's changing, how we get our information. You could literally just go get a lynda.com, account and learn all the stuff you want, but
But I
that's
mean, how? I guess the question then comes into, but because for a long time, and I still hear it of employers still want that paper, right? Or some employers still want that paper, right? They want that thing to be waved around, even though the actual value of that has been diminished so much over time. Because once upon a time, college was this very specific, very trained thing because not everyone went into it. And now, because you had generations of people that were told, no, in order to get a really good paying job, you've got to go to college. And so it's the syndrome from the Incredibles moment, right? Of, now everyone is special, right? Everyone's got that degree in something. And because of that, the value
Ah,
of it has plummeted over the years.
stop.
So, I know there's a lot of people that talk about wanting more, trade school type stuff, which I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that make good money working trades, right? Out in plants and stuff, especially in this area. Um, but that's not for everybody. But at the same time, like with, your sister not being able to provide well enough by doing what she wanted to do, she had to switch careers, right? Well, if college, if she wasn't so burdened down by all that the college debt, would she have been able to achieve her dreams more if she'd been able to focus more on that side of it? Are there people out there who, if they would be able to just focus on the skill instead of having to deal with all the school, would they be able to achieve more of that dream? It's I don't know. It's an interesting question that I guess we'll see if the times start to change and shift away from the higher education. But yeah, right now it's definitely we're right on the precipice of our son about to be in college. And like I feel the need to put him in college because of, I guess, part of what was driven into me growing up of you need a degree, right? You need a degree. You need a degree in something because that's the first thing employers are going to look for. It's the th first thing they're going to ask for. There's still some of that like
I'm gonna have
vestigial
to put you in a bathroom.
notion built into my brain that it's something that's needed. It's just a matter now of just don't get a worthless degree. But with the emergence of AI, it's like, okay, well, what is in a worthless degree is about to become a lot more stuff than maybe we really are thinking about at the moment, which is a scary thought, right? So yeah, it's a wild thing to think about and not great considering that I'm about to be forking over a lot of money to deal with it.
okay, Dad. What are your
You
thoughts?
don't want me talking about it. Let Colin go first because I'm going to be long-winded.
I'm one of those people who firmly believe that the education system is broken in the United States.
Hmm.
And I mean, when they stop worrying about the education, they worry more and more about pandering to whatever power that be, you know, and you have to follow this. If you want these dollars, you got to do these things. Now, I am seriously an advocate of homeschooling. And I have. I did some homeschooling with two of my boys after watching them go through a school system that was just garbage. I got two through it and two that I had to work my way through with, and just no. I honestly think the days of colleges are numbered anyway, because again, some people say, well, no, going to college will be able to, you'll be able to wheat in the chaff and all that garbage. And thing is, you had the admission scandal 2 years ago. Okay. And people, actors and stuff, famous people were all involved in it. It was so widespread. The podcast,
And did you think that that was something that was new?
no, I've known that wasn't new. No, it just, no, that over time, I have just become just so negative on it. I honestly see that the days of a proper college being necessary are dwindling, in my opinion. And like David said, the trade school thing.
Mhm.
I honestly think that's the way to go. You know your market and stuff like that. If you want to go to school and learn these things like HVAC up here, huge market. Okay. There are HVAC schools all over the place. If you can attend 18 months and go through HVAC school, you can make a very comfortable living quickly. And
Yeah, what is it? It's HVAC and what, plumbing and welding, right? Those are
Yeah.
the three that it's like if you learn those
Well,
three things, you'll be able to work all the rest of your life.
You're forgetting electrical. Okay.
well,
First of
a lot
all,
of HVAC guys can get cross certified for electrical.
yeah, but not everybody. And
Right.
a lot of people who specialize in HVAC do not do electrical. They understand how an HVAC system, they understand AC work and that, but they couldn't wire a house. They
Right.
cannot set up the zoning and the electricity in the house. Okay, I'm going to step in. Education, you need to follow the money to figure out what's going on in education and realize that it's all circular. Back in the day, you went to school and you got a basic education. You were at a certain age, you were out of school and didn't graduate, and you went to work as an apprentice with somebody and you learned a trade. Trade schools then became then we had higher education. We had more people wanting to become blue collar and all this other stuff. The promotion of for-profit schools versus, community colleges. You could go to a community college, get a associate's degree, or go to a community college and get a trade degree. Go to a trade class, learn how to repair engines, do all this stuff. For years, we relied on people who specialized in these. Now, but the thing about it was a lot of those things we could fix ourselves if with just a little knowledge, understanding of how it worked. Most people repaired their own things. So people who make money off of those repairs decided we need to make this, what's the term, proprietary, where you have to have a degree or you have to specialize in this. So you no longer could work on your car. You could no longer repair something at home. That was so that one niche group could make money. And that's how everything works in America. Whoever is making the most money can apply the most pressure to make sure that money keeps flowing towards them. Just like IT wasn't a big thing when I was younger. That IT became when everybody started losing their job in manufacturing and other things, and these commercials started popping up on radio and television. Oh, at night, you don't have a job, you're unemployed, go and get an IT job. There's thousands, hundreds of millions of IT jobs. Every person in America was doing the exact same thing. So America was doing the exact same thing. And so we had a glut of all of these schools and classes and all this stuff for IT and not enough jobs for the people coming out of school. You would pay big money for it. You'd get out there and all of a sudden realize you can't make a living. So guess what? You're back still selling coffee or working at a restaurant. There will always be a need for trade workers. Always. There will always be a need for higher education. We need engineers. We need doctors. We need people who
need lawyers.
want
We
to
need
devote
people
that much
Do we
time
need
because it's
lawyers?
8,
Do we
10
need
years.
lawyers?
Well, you
Well,
know what? We kind of do. We just need
Yeah.
to like everything else,
Um,
lawyers created their own language to make sure that not everybody could be a lawyer. Common sense will get you a long way. But
I watched the
know,
guy defend himself in court. That did not get him very. It
well,
got him
I've won
along
twice. I've
something,
won
but
twice
not
in
away.
court against somebody. Myself, I couldn't afford an attorney. I studied. I looked at what case law I could find. I made sure I documented everything, and I won. Did I get to collect my money? No, because a judgment does not guarantee that you will get your money from somebody. I have a lien against somebody on one of their business, so if they try to sell it, they're supposed to let me know, and I'm supposed to get a percentage of what that sale is. It's never going to happen. The other person filed bankruptcy, threw out my entire thing. Little known to me, there were other people suing the guy. So
this isn't my
yes,
cousin Vinny.
yeah. I wished I had her with me. Torme, that would have been great. I'd have just said, forget it. I'm going to stick with her. But it's a crooked system that is designed by people who are there to get money. The reason why college is so bad right now is it's so expensive for no reason. We have other countries that are just like us that provide at least 4 years of college for free. It's not as expensive. And the only time it goes up is when American influence comes there and all of a sudden they start trying to mimic us. That's the downside of true capitalism. Capitalism requires competition. And when there's no real competition, it's just laissez-faire, governance. So colleges shouldn't be this expensive. First off, it used to be an investment. It was not about profiting off of anything. It was about an investment in the nation's future. A highly educated workforce and population make better voters, make people who make better product. They take pride in their work. All these things are gone. It's all about profiteering. It's about, making a product that nobody in their right mind would put a warranty on because you need it to break down within 6 months so you can sell the next one. We talked about that in a previous episode. Mm-hmm. It's about colleges and those people who give and loan that money.
Well, it's also
they have a huge lobby in Washington to protect their interests.
Yeah,
there's almost nobody in government right now to protect the interest of people. It's all big corporations and wealthy deep pockets. As far as education goes, we have changed our school. There's stuff that even when y'all were going to school, I was going, why is this different from when I went to school? And now I look at what my grandkids are going through and I'm like, okay, this used to be common sense. This should be major things you were taught in the early grades. Why are we not educating about government? Why are we not financing? Why are we not telling people how things really work anymore? Because that's not what education's about. Education now is about profiteering and controlling people.
Well, they got to score well on those standard tests so they can get those government grants. Along with making sure that everyone in the school is on free and reduced lunches, because then that will also get them money from the government because they need all that in order to provide for the students and all the rest of that. That was one of the more wild things was whenever my kids first started going to school and we actually legitimately would have meetings at the schools where the principal would stand up there and be like, okay, everybody, we need to make sure that all of you sign up for free and reduced lunch so that way we can prove that we're, whatever percentile they needed to meet so that they could get money from the government to fund certain things that they wanted. And I was like, this is wild. Like whenever that first happened, I was like, that's insane that You
But see,
basically
they've
are
been doing
telling
that.
all of the parents to claim that all of us are in poverty just so that they can get more
Well, it's
money. It's
not,
wild.
yeah, but it's because it started out because there were a lot of students coming hungry. There were a lot
Sure.
of students coming, to school, and we know that if they eat breakfast and they wake up and they had that energy in class, they start learn they start absorbing what they're being taught quicker. Hungry kids make poor students. Okay, that was the
Yeah.
goal. Then people who want to make a money and profit off it came in and took it over. Again, the same problem. But, that happened long before lunches. That's why schools got money by per the number of kids that were in class. They didn't care about if they were educating the students. They just had to be in the seat so they could be counted during attendance. That's why attendance was so important, to get that federal dollar, because states didn't want to fund education.
Right. And
We
that's the
still
problem
have a problem
because
with.
right, and that's the biggest problem because you have schools that should get the funding because they don't have, adequate working equipment like ACs and
I don't know. There's no maintenance. There's no upkeep of
plumbing,
the buildings or
desks.
anything,
Yeah, like
unless you're in a wealthy neighborhood.
the school that's right up here, like they literally have it where like the school is out in the elements except for the classrooms, and that's what they cool down. It's like why, and they have like livestock in it. And this is an elementary. It's like, what are you doing with the livestock? Oh, we're making extra money because of, having this stuff in there, not thinking about the hygiene or anything of your kids. Um, I know that ag has that kind of thing, but that's usually in high school, not in an elementary.
No, it usually starts in junior high, and then you go on to high school
Right.
with it.
Um,
But you know what? What's funny is I remember being in a 2,000 student school, and most of us were in trailers because they didn't have the money to build a bigger school or add on to the school. So we were out in these wooden trailers out in the back of the school that took up half the parking or the football field. Um,
South Houston was like that, remember?
South Houston was that Jessup Elementary was down there was like that.
we've always shortchanged the education system. We look for shortcuts instead of, some things cannot be shortcutted.
Well, and it's
You know,
not good right now with
well, now with this push
with
to privatize schools, there are groups of people, a section of our population who would love nothing more than to see school become privatized. And that's just another way of limiting who gets an education, because then it's only going to be the people who can afford to have a good education who have one. And then that's like when I say it goes back in a circle, that's how it was in the 30s and 40s. We're just seeing stuff recycled throughout history over and over again, and we don't seem to learn from those mistakes.
segregation, and then now we're doing that to people that have
Yeah, now they want to bring
if you're
segregation
poor
back, where
or if
there's a
you're
big
special
push
needs.
to remove science out of school again and go back to a more religious upbringing. We had to fight to get that out of the schools, and now we're going to have to do it all over again at some point, because you're going to have people who believe that the world is flat and it was created, and that the earth is only 5,000 years old,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. And it's well educated people, you would think that would be well educated, repeating this stuff over and over. When I see a a basketball
Football
player who
paper.
has influence over younger people saying the world is flat, we have a problem. Please prove me wrong. Keep walking. When you fall off, I'll go, oh man, he was right. But if we actually meet up again with each other, when you come back around, I'm gonna, B slap you. Here's the problem. We got people who are like saying these things and wanting to push this stuff, and they're like, oh, if we're wrong, what's it going to hurt? If you're wrong, you've destroyed a whole society. What's the old saying? Err on the side of precaution. Let's look at facts, science, things like that. I mean, science changes. Like right now, we're discovering that the universe what we believe the universe is not exactly right. You know, we have these mathematical and stuff. What is it?
Equations and
Cosmology that kind of trying to unify everything, and everything worked. And now we've got a couple of scientists one's coming out of Australia, one's coming out of another country. I think not Portugal, but it's another one of the Spanish countries, that they believe that there's much less dark matter in the universe than we've at first believe, and that there are other reasons why the universe is continually expanding and contracting differently in different portions of space. If one worked, we should be expanding always in the same direction in all directions. But now
yeah.
that we're finding out that that's not true. So what I'm saying there is that yes, there will always be times when we have to adjust our way of thinking, but we should not go back to this dark ages just because something makes you fearful or doesn't fit your paradigm of whatever the universe looks like. And that's where we are in college right now. Their colleges have become, instead of a place open to discussion and where you could talk about anything,
Mm-hmm.
to where you have factions within the school trying to shut down the other fact because they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to debate it, they don't want to even care to listen to what you
They
said.
don't want it to
You're
exist.
wrong, you need to shut up. And it's on both sides, it's all of them. And that is that there's a problem, and that comes from what kids learn at home. That is how the limitations of our education system and how we are underfunding everything. And that is just a thing of history because that is how humanity has always worked.
I mean, it's also a function of the internet, right? Because
Yeah.
now
Like that,
now
yes,
you're able to radicalize people so much faster because you do have people that aren't, that aren't being schooled at home, like aren't receiving any kind of attention at home because sometimes it's not, a malevolent reason behind it. It might be that both parents are having to work, two jobs apiece, and so they're like, waving at each other as they're going in and out the doors. The other one's going to bed, and the kids are basically taking care of themselves, right? And they're going out and finding all this stuff on the internet, and it leads them into these wild, insane places, right? And that it takes them down these wild roads, and everyone thinks, oh man, I got to be, this random influencer from somewhere, and that's what I need to shoot for. And it's like, no, that's impossible. And what they're selling you is a complete farce. And then it just they wind up in this no man's land, and that doesn't end well for anybody.
yeah,
Um,
it's interesting. The internet was supposed to be our savior. It was supposed to give us access to all information everywhere all at once, and it has turned out to be the exact opposite.
it's one of those things where, the more and more you look back on it, you're like, you know what? He shouldn't have sent bombs in the mail, but Ted Kaczynski had a couple points, right, in his manifesto about like the coming techno future and all that. It's like we don't need to return to monkey. We don't need to go all the way to, what he wanted, but it's like, but then you have dystopian fiction all over the place that makes all the same a lot of the same points, right? Of anything that we invent, that we create is going to, it's human nature that people are going to find ways of abusing it. That's why every system breaks eventually. That's why every
Mhm.
system fails eventually. It's impossible because people find loopholes, people find ways to game the system, and as people find ways to game the system, that hole that they found to go through gets wider and wider because more people,
Well,
they
it's
tell
not
their
just one
friends
hole,
who
it
tell two
becomes
friends.
Swiss
Well,
cheese
no,
and it undermines
yeah,
the foundation.
yeah, and more and more people find it until now all of a sudden that thing doesn't, it's not even that big of a loophole anymore, right? Because everybody's using it, and once everybody's using it, then you completely destroyed the entire system. And yeah, it's oh man, it sucks.
No, it's just like we have this big push in America now. We need to have one parent at home. You know, things were much better when we had one working parent and one parent at home to help stabilize the family. Nobody's asking the question, how? We can't put that genie back in the bottle. You cannot survive on one income. Some people do, but you have to be making a lot of money, which goes back to the education. Most of these people are either the wealthy in this country are being built on what do you call it? Uh, I want to say the stock market, but that's not it. The hedge funds and all this other stuff, it's all money, making money off of money with free money. They they want to go back to this zero interest rate because they were addicted to it. They could make fortunes off of everybody else, but you notice that that interest rate never trickled down to normal people. I mean, the lowest our interest rates ever got was 4%, 3%, and then you didn't make any interest on your money in your savings account. So what was the point in saving? People started moving to credit. Now once again, just 10 years after we made all these changes, here we go again. We have a credit crisis in America where people are living beyond their means on credit cards. And we have the same people who were putting out predatory loans at high interest rates are back in there doing it. So nothing changed, you know? And the biggest thing that nobody ever wants to talk about is the fact that automation and technology removes jobs. And when it does, there's nothing there for them to go to. Manufacturing lost 80% of its jobs to automation. We told those people who had lost their jobs, you know what, we'll go and re-educate you. We're going to pay for your college and get you a degree in something that you can make money in. Those jobs are disappearing, and those jobs are going to disappear faster as AI comes online and can redo all those jobs that we used to have people manually doing. So at some point, even Elon Musk is talking about this. Not Elon Musk. Who's X? Who runs X?
Elon
Not
Musk.
Elon
Elon
Musk. Okay, I
Musk.
got it right. I'm thinking of Amazon. What's his name?
Bezos.
Oh, Jeff
Bezos.
Bezos.
Yeah. So Elon Musk is talking about, yeah, this is going to be a good thing for mankind. They won't have jobs, so they'll be free. Free to what? To starve?
Well, that's where you have the Andrew Yangs of the world talking about UBI, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Which
hold on. No, we're gonna end up like Wally, right? Where they're gonna send us up into space and we're just gonna eat the leftovers, silent Soylent Green of people and become fat, be controlled by an AI,
Make
while
mobility
robots are
scooters are a
here
thing.
picking up all the trash, all the collectibles that we cultivate right now that don't mean shit in 1,200 years from now. I mean, it wasn't at the point of the movie, Wally. We
Something
lost
like
our
that.
Colin, you were
humanity.
saying something.
Consumerism.
The same mobility scooters are very popular nowadays.
I mean,
Man, if I ever have, I've already told the
Okay, don't
wife.
say this because I'm already almost there. I'm trying to keep my foot, and I'd love to be able to walk with my grandkids. But you know what? I kind of like having them little scooters, and I can just come up behind somebody and go, beep, beep, and they jump out of the way. I want to have it painted like the friggin' Mach 5, and I'm gonna wear Speed's helmet and clothes and just
You
go
know what?
racing around Target.
I forgot that today's leg day. After we're done with this, I'm gonna go just to try and make sure I have a few more years that I keep in there. Because yeah, I don't want to ever get there. Just not mobility scooters for the love of
My
God.
daughter was
I mean,
like, "What are we gonna
granted,
do if you lose your leg?" I'm gonna dress like a pirate and have a wood leg and just walk around going "Arr" all the
there
time.
you go.
what I would want the
Technology has
future.
put me out of business.
I want the Ghost in the Shell future where I could just put my brain, my cyber brain that's copied of my brain into a
Well,
body.
well,
Why?
then go ahead
Because they're
with
gonna
Musk.
program, they're gonna hack your brain, and then you won't know if your decisions are yours, which was the point of
In your head
freaking
of
Ghost
full
in the
death.
Shell. It's like when
Oh,
you used to
hey,
go,
as long as I'm not in
"Dad,
a place,
I'm gonna build
as
a
long as I'm
robot
not
body
in
and put your
a
brain
place
in
of
it."
power, I shouldn't have anything to worry about. You know,
Unless you're being used as a battery for the machines, right?
yeah, I could be the guy that goes and helps the dude that's, hacking into the government agent, so I can see my wife and son or some nonsense. He doesn't really have a wife and son. He's all been cyber hacked and yeah. Anyway, that
I
was
mean, we're
that was a
finding out
plot
so
line
much
from the
about the
movie.
human brain that it can be reprogrammed. Things that we didn't think were possible are
Uh,
now
Look,
the
our
possible.
brains can be reprogrammed now. Just look at
That's what I
what's
was just
being
saying.
put out there with TikTok. Oh, that's a thing too. Um, or other shorts. It doesn't have to be TikTok. Oh my God. It's just like that whole thing. We're gonna shut down another platform because we have this scare that We're back to that whole Red Scare thing again.
Oh, the whole thing is that they want to get rid of TikTok because it allows people to say how they
It's
feel,
ungoverned.
and
It's ungoverned.
it's
Yeah.
ungoverned.
So it's
Everything's
not like,
about censorship in America. You got to
yeah.
people once people realize that, they'll understand what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
And we talk about
every
no censorship unless it's what you think.
I mean,
Right.
there is no such thing. Like
Yeah.
as much as the big L libertarians want, the complete anarcho state, type of thing. It's like that's never going to happen because there's always going to be you're eventually going to hit a ceiling of speech that someone is gonna enough people are gonna say, you know what? Maybe that's a bridge too far. You know what? Maybe we need to dial some of this back. You know what? Maybe we need to censor just a little bit of this speech, just because that right there was that's a little much. We need to step back. But like I said, right? Anything that we start with good intention will eventually be abused, will
Views, yeah.
eventually be used, and then we're back to the over control of things and people stepping on other people to get what they want in every which way they can.
I mean, we're already on the cusp of with AI and Skynet happening. I mean, just keep it going, guys.
We would never know if AI actually became sentient. We'd never know
No, we
because
would.
it would do exactly what's going on right now and slowly adjust people's way of thought, and you'd never see it coming until it was too late.
Nope. And well,
Wait,
did y'all hear about the what was it like? Was it Chat GPT or one of the AI was like anytime you put anything in it, it would just come up with something wacky or crazy. I don't think we talked about that. I don't. I have to look it up, but I was just watching a video on it a couple weeks ago. But apparently, either it was the AI got compromised or something, or just went crazy, and it just started populating weird stuff. Like if you asked it to do something, it was changing like political figures into other
oh no
things.
no no! Oh,
Or
yeah, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Google AI, and what it was doing was they had hard coded into the front of it that it like one of the objectives is that of that AI was to like better society and try and uplift marginalized people. And so anytime that you would ask it something, its default setting was then to say like, hey, I want you to show me, I want you to generate a picture of me for the founding fathers. And it was like, all right, cool. Hey, here's a bunch of pictures of the founding fathers if they were like Southeast Asian and African, and like they would go through and show you all these different race revisions of what the founding fathers would look like
Fathers
as
look
these
like,
other
yeah.
things. It's like, okay, I mean that's cool for like alternate reality history stuff, but that's not what I asked for. But it was
well,
specifically programmed to
so
do
And
that, and that's what
there
people
was
started
that
running into.
too. There was
well,
that with the,
it's not even fun because if it had been like Mickey, Goofy, Donald, and them, that would be great. Here's our founding father. You
Well,
know,
no, I mean it would just inspire somebody to make the next Hamilton, right? It's like, oh yeah, we'll
yeah.
just do change this a little bit.
well, no,
That'd be good.
there was that, but there was another AI tool. It wasn't Google that anytime you would
A
tap
different one
to
that
it,
was doing weird stuff like that.
yep.
Huh.
Well,
But it
chat.
wasn't
What
changing
is it
like the
called? Chat. What?
Chat GPT.
Chat GPT.
Yeah. Whatever you said. They had
GPT.
put in a for it to talk about what would happen if AI took over, and what
Yes.
it put out was this manifesto of how the world would be better off and that people should not fear it because they're not going to be driven by certain emotions, opinions, and things like that. They're going to be looking at things. And I was like, that's exactly what I would be afraid of right there. So it's like the AI is starting to, oh, we're going to run for the president of the United States and let's start figuring out our manifesto here. Um,
I'm reminded of there's a great little story. It's called the Wolves of Memory, and I'm sure there's a bunch of sci-fi stories that do this, but the whole concept of it was that there was an AI, there's a computer that dictated everyone's job to them, right? So it would tell you, hey, you are going to go do HVAC, right? And if you were terrible at HVAC and you couldn't learn it, it would say, okay, maybe you're not an HVAC person. Maybe you need to go do electrical, right? And so now you go and you try your hand at that. And if you failed at that, then it's like, all right, you're officially worthless to society. So here's a portal, and we're going to send you literally to another planet where the only thing that exists there is a farm and a bunch of other people that sucked and couldn't do their jobs. But what it didn't tell you was that there was a virus that existed on that planet that would slowly eat away your memory to the point where you were basically like the guy from Memento, right? Where you like lost all long-term memory
Memory.
and all
Yeah.
you had was all your short-term memory until it eventually killed. Like, it was Alzheimer's, right? It gave you Alzheimer's, dementia, right? All that, and it would eventually kill you, but you were super young whenever that would happen. And so the whole story is really cool because it's actually told sort of in the style that Memento was, where you have one chapter where it's following the main character and he's being sent to that planet. He's learning about it, figuring out all that stuff about it. And then every other chapter, it's him in the middle of nowhere with like a dead body next to him, trying to figure out why he's there, who this person is, where he's going, all this stuff. So fun
Yeah,
little
there was just a movie based on a book where a guy who was wearing a hazmat suit stumbles upon this plantation where it's a mother and her four kids, and basically there's something like that out in the world. And if you're exposed to it, it eats away your memory, and every day is a reset. And the mother realizes he's not their son, but because one of their brothers left, he was in love with somebody, he couldn't have that love, so he left, and he never came back. So she tells them, "Oh, this is your long lost brother. He's back," and he's like, "I don't know." And then he gets accidentally exposed to the air, and he starts believing it. And then, but he falls in love with one of his sisters, which is not technically his sister, and they realize that there's a problem and they're going to run away. And then when they try to escape, somebody gets shot. I'm trying to remember all of this. One of them falls, and it's the daughter. She falls, lands, falls on her decomposing brother, and there's enough of him left that she realizes that's him. She stands up to turn and tell him, and she's like, "What was I going to say?" And in the end, the mother gets killed, two of the siblings get killed, and then they come back and just continue to
everybody's
live that
dead.
way. Well, they know they come back and just keep living it over and over because the house was sealed. Nothing could get in. But by the time it was done, and over like windows were broken out, walls were knocked down. So they just succumbed. There was no hope at the end of that. And I was like, wow, that is such a bleak
Well,
society.
I think the bleakest society that I can think of, and I don't know why I was thinking about this the other day. There's that really famous story by who is it? What's his name? Harlan Ellison, I think.
Okay.
I have no mouth and I must scream.
Scream,
Where
yeah.
where the computer in the future like murders all of humanity, right? The computers awaken. They kill all humans except for what, three? Is it four? There's like a handful of them, right? Like maybe three, four, maybe five at most people that exist that the computer keeps alive. Like they're basically immortal, right? It maintains them and keeps them alive. Meanwhile, it's just torturing them relentlessly. And if I remember at the very end, like they try to rebel against
Yeah.
the computers and all that, and they
Harlan Ellison.
fail. They fail, and at the very end of it, it ends with the main character being in like it transforms him into like this formless blob, right? And that's where the title of the story comes from, where he has no mouth because he's just this amorphous blob of a thing, but he must scream because he's still being tormented and terrified by this computer. So I'm
Well,
glad
there,
we can start all this on a real positive note.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's also the what was it? The anime, When Called Amnesia, where
Amnesia. Yeah.
there's that one part in the movie where they end up going to this metropolis city that's run by a computer, and the main character and the alien girl that he's with, like, they meet these two characters and they keep playing different parts of people from the society because the computer has the memories of every person that ever lived there that have died except for the two people. So they every so many hours they switch over to like a different person, like a doctor. But in reality, the old man and the younger girl are father and daughter, but they've been playing these different parts of romantic love and other things, and they don't know it.
Oh,
And
what was the one about the humanity? The section of humanity was taken off into space. by aliens, and they were trying to figure out how emotions work. So each
Dark
night it
City.
would Dark City. Man, I
Yeah,
love
Dark
that.
City. Yeah,
And
Dark
that
City's almost had the similar premise.
yeah.
But like the whole story in that is that an alien race decides that mankind is becoming too violent, and they release a gas that um basically wipes everybody's memory. They just go back to being basic barbaric cavemen in a way. And
Well, we're already there. We just
the
have new weapons.
well, but I mean the things that we should know aren't there for these people, you know. But the only reason why like the main character has any memories or anything is because he happened to come across a guy that was experimented on that had a chip put in his brain that allowed him to retain his memories outside of the gas that would have wiped his brain. So he helps teach him, and he goes off looking for people that he could help, you know, basically recultivate society. And but it's a really good story. But they have these different little vignettes of things that happen throughout the adventure. But um, I guess we can move from this topic. Is there anything else we want to bring up? Like why the education system is worth it? Because worthless or not?
It's because people don't want it to be.
Yeah.
It's, like we talked about the last week or last podcast, where I'm doing it again. I have a brand. I always have when it comes to where obsolescence, designed obsolescence,
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
and the same thing goes for people. And it's everything. Um, one of
Well,
the my biggest problems is how easily a generation. It only takes one generation to wipe the memories of how certain things
the
are.
collective knowledge, yeah,
A
from everything.
collective knowledge. It can be in one generation, it can be completely wiped out, and it's a form of control.
Well, think about it like with the movie, well, not the movie, but the book of Zombieland. No, not Zombieland. God damn it.
That was a
Yeah, that's a
total
totally
different
different movie.
story.
Totally different movie. No,
That was all about cardio
yeah.
and the importance for
Oh,
exercising and
come
not
on. What
being
was it?
chubby.
Shit. What's the zombie movie? I mean,
Everybody's breathing in the
the movie
oxygen
that
tonight.
had Brad Pitt in it that was like nothing like the book at all.
Okay,
World
World
War
War
Z.
Yeah,
Z.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but
that
12
movie
monkeys.
sucked.
but the book, it talked about how people in society, people that didn't have actually a trade job, that didn't actually provide a need in society after the zombie apocalypse. These guys were put on doing like farm duty and the most
Well, I
manual
mean, that
labor.
came straight out of the book.
Yeah,
I
yeah, no, no,
remember
no,
when they
no. But I'm
tried to
talking,
rebuild
I'm, but that's
society,
what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the book,
everybody
not
had
the
to work.
movie. I'm talking about the book, not the movie. But you think about that in society, we have people that are trained to be these things that mean nothing. So like if our infrastructure and everything change instantly overnight, like everything collapses and I know that's the worry with this eclipse that's coming. Um, what are
Yeah, there's
how
a
are we going to
nuclear
function?
prep team in Oklahoma.
The thing is that if it would all go to crap, like most people, some people pray it does,
Oh my
and
God, yeah, people pray,
libertarians,
yeah.
and some people were afraid of it doing, and some people are trying to bring it about. If that were to happen, people who can grow, who know how to farm, know how to make things like wine, alcohol, distill things, know what plants are for healing, they all of a sudden become very, very important. Who can create filtrations to clean up water. All of a sudden, there's a total different skill set in demand. I don't care if you worked in a bank, money don't mean shit anymore.
Yeah.
But if you know how to make gunpowder, we can put you to work. Um, so
That's
we in society, we tend to, as we get more comfortable and more things are available, we tend to look down on those people and those that knowledge of how to do things falls down low on the totem pole until you need them, and all of a sudden they're elevated really quickly. We won't need politicians. You'll still need somebody who is sort of a negotiator or a diplomat. You'll still need those. especially if you want to have tribal communication between different tribes so you can have trade.
Well, you also need somebody that's going to be like, your town mayor, the person that's over the community that you've created to help
I
like
don't know if we
govern.
need I'm torn between that
we'll just
because
need
there's an old
elders.
saying, when you have a society that's ruled by committee, nothing gets done, right? So you need one person where the buck stops here. But then that leads to dictatorships and
Right,
authoritarians.
right. I mean,
So you need somehow
Unless
you
you're
need to
the
find a way that everybody has a
collective.
check over them, you
Well,
know.
trying to remember, there's actually a movement of people that just want to push for monarchy. I forget what they're called though. Yeah, you could always have that. You could just go the old monarchist route, and we can go back to feudalism. How awesome would that be? Castles? Who wants castles
But
again?
we live in a modern version of uh, feudalism. Corporations could be considered feudal lords.
yeah.
The people who work for them are
The
their
corporate
subjects.
samurai, they come in and
And then there's a monarch above them,
that's
which
their
is the
enemies.
government in a way. Um, so I like those books that in science fiction and stuff that explore that, and they project out. Okay, here's what's happened in the past. Where is our proposal or our story. Where do you think it's going to end? This is where we think it's going to end. And then later on, you discover that, and you look at it, and you look how your society is functioning now, and you can kind of see where you're headed, and that gives you an opportunity to change that path. But you have to be smart enough to take that. You know, you can lead to water, but you can't make them drink. So
Well, I mean, was it Johnny Mnemonic kind of plays up upon that stuff, but it's also a I know there's a book series that it kind of was taken from, but even Shadowrun, has that, even though it has magic and other things in it, but it talks about the corporations. It talks about that whole change in society because corporations rule. And
well, the minute we gave corporations the same rights as a human being, that was the death knell for humanity.
well, and it goes back to that whole movie where, what was it, the guy starts seeing the product placements as gods. Can't remember what it was called. It came out in like 2000s.
I don't know about that. I know that you have what American Gods, the book, and then the TV series that they came out with, where it's not corporations, but just like manifestations of things, right? So there's like a god of the internet, there's like god of highways and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not familiar one where
Yeah,
someone was
I'll
actually
find it.
seeing.
It's a real weird one where this guy starts seeing like anytime there's a product placement, he sees like it connected to.
Oh, that something deer or something.
Yeah, I can't
It
remember
all
what it's
starts
called.
with a Red Bull, or when this animal was going to be born, he becomes the semblance of it. So
The cat.
he's poor. He goes through all this stuff, and all of a sudden, then next thing you know, he's like this big advertising product placement thing, and it kind of has like little elements taken out of They Live, because remember they show society and all the billboards, and then there's the what you see and what's behind it all.
Yeah,
I remember that, man. I
yeah.
watched that on Showtime a while back.
It's a kind
I
of
have
cool
to look it
concept
up.
about like how corporations and the product placements are like
The red deer,
parts of
red.
these new deities that have been created. But yeah, so let me see. So that topic was brought to us by Joseph Mullins. So thank you, sir. We hope we covered this enough for you. We know we went into our normal side tangents of stuff that we normally do, whether it's stage
I mean,
focus or not. It comes all back around.
you know what? I'm gonna give us two thumbs up though on that because we stayed on topic for a while there,
Yeah, we did.
right?
We did.
Before we like went off into sci-fi land.
So, which we can talk about. This can now branch into how god awful that Crow trailer for that's coming out this year with Bill Skarsgård, and how like it's like
Very
did they Did they just cast him to because of the fact he was the clown in it? I mean, it's like his makeup's kind of almost like looking just like it too in the movie instead of it being
Give the
very.
guy credit. He's a good actor.
Oh, hey, I understand he's a good actor, but he's not playing a good Eric Draven. He's playing Post Malone with
You
a.
know, that was actually a pretty good comment from what was it, Jeremy Johns in his review of the trailer. He actually was talking about would there be this much hate and vitriol for this movie if it just wasn't Eric Draven? Because I have to admit, some of the stuff that they're doing with his, immortality is interesting, right? Like some of those fight scenes where he's shooting through himself and stabbing himself to stab the guy behind him, or get the guy behind him, or pretending he's dead, right? When they gun him all down, then he just pops up and offs the guy, right? Like
Well, but
those
that's been
things.
done before,
Yeah,
so you can't give them
but
credit for that.
no, but the action scenes look okay. It's been done before. Great. So has the first Star Wars movie did a bunch of stuff that then got repeated in this
No,
second
no,
one.
no, no.
So the
I
second
agree.
one's garbage, right? Compared to that. But
Crow.
there's interesting, like the fight scenes look like they could be interesting, but the fact that it's Eric Draven and you're supposed to be telling
Exactly.
Eric Draven's story,
Correct.
this goes to like so many other issues. It's like, look, if you're just going to tell the story of this character, then go back to the source material, make sure you're following, because it doesn't even look, they can't even make the argument that, oh, we're following the comic more closely, because they're not even doing that, right?
No.
No.
Usually that's the fallback. It's like, well, we're gonna stick more to the source material, but they're screwing it up. It's like either tell the source material story, or this isn't Eric Draven. Call him someone else and just do a different
Exactly.
Crow.
If you go
And you
back,
want to know what?
if you go
It,
back and look in our podcast when we were posting the preview of it, the first thing I said that this would work fine as another Crow. Could have just been a continuation of the mythology of the
Correct.
Crow bringing back people. It did not need to be Eric Draven.
Well,
But by
it's
making it Eric Draven, you alienated fans of that story. And it's the same thing that keeps happening over and over in these remakes. That should have been a standalone story, its own story. People would have loved it. It would have gone, people would go see it. But because you made it about Eric, and that is a beloved character to so many fans, it's like cutting your own throat. You guaranteed you were going to get bad press and people who aren't going to go see it, and it's excessively violent. I love how it's a love story. It's about hope. No, it is not. The way that Brandon Lee played that character, it was a sympathetic character who wanted justice for his family, and not just for them. I'm talking the movie right now, and for that little girl who they kind of adopted. They took all of that out to make it more grittier and more believable, just like what they did with RoboCop. RoboCop was a great thing. It should just never have been called RoboCop. The same thing with this. They were trying to make it fit today's society, but that's not what in the past we thought of as
that's
hope and love.
that's the problem though, because the thing is that book in the original movie transcends time. It's not like it can work at any time. You just tell the story. You just change like certain things around it, but you keep the characters the core. I mean, there's no reason to change it. To have him be Eric Draven and have the girl he's with be his wife, but to have them like they were in a correctional facility and that's how they met, which has nothing to do with this character. Where is his connection to being a rocker? He was where is this? It's not there. And then to use Post Malone as the person that as your archetype for Eric Draven doesn't work. And it's like I have no emotion for any of these characters. It's like you take the original trailer, take this trailer. They're night and day difference. And like Dad said, and David, it looks good as a film that could be a sequel within the universe. It looks good if it wasn't even The Crow, but to make it Eric. It's just like spitting in the face of what came before, James O'Barr, what he did with his story. And then on top of that, the director of the original Crow movie says the same thing. It disgraces the legacy of what Brandon Lee brought with that film.
Yeah, it's just this weird obsession with remakes, right, is getting everybody. And it's just like, guys, it's so simple. Just tell the stories, right? Just tell the stories. It shouldn't be this hard. Like, you have it all written out for you. You have your script. You have your character designs. You have everything
You have the
sitting
storyboards.
right in front of you, and you're like, you know what? You know what? This really well beloved thing, this thing that everyone loves, this character that's like is iconic for an entire like genre of movie. Yeah, let's just completely rework all that, but keep the names. Like, no, that's stupid. It's stupid everywhere they do it. And like, it's not like now they can even try and argue that they're doing this for, like the Google AI, right? It's not like they're trying to say, oh yeah, we're trying to elevate, this other group of people for this. They can't even try and make that excuse on this. It's like, no, they got Bill Skarsgård, they put him in some grummy makeup, they put in couple cool action scenes, pushed it out the door, let's go. It's like, no, no, it's not enough. You need, if you're gonna do that, just make it something new and stop screwing with this older stuff. Stop trying to cash in on the name value of these properties in this crappy way. Make your own stories or tell the stories that people care about the way that they're supposed to be told. And that's all you need to do. I don't understand why it's this hard. Like,
Because
good
stolen
Lord.
valor is easy to sell.
Yeah, right. It is. I mean,
Why go to the effort to creating your own story, your own character, unique and everything, when you can just steal from some other property and then stick your little cut and paste characters in and you tell the story you want.
But again, it's so funny because like all you got to do is find all replace that name. Find all replace the name of Eric Draven, right? Just find all replace his name, wipe him out of there. Don't call this a remake. Just say it's a new Crow movie. Because I mean, like how I would be stoked to think, oh hey, they're gonna make a new Crow movie, not remake the Crow, but they're gonna be doing a new one. The ones that came after the original were a little cringe, but let's see how this one goes. And if this was the first trailer that came out for it, they're like, you know what? It's not going to set the world on fire. It's not going to redefine anything, but decent enough looking action movie. Sure, why not? But
it's like, how do you make the most mediocre remake with like having all this nice set designs or whatever, the action scenes, but it's like you put the most generic character in it. I love the whole like the memes when we saw what he looked like, and somebody took and made him look like Dante from Devil May Cry or DMC Devil May Cry, not
Yeah.
actually Dante from Devil May Cry. And it's like, yeah, I could see it. It's kind of that. So we're gonna have a moment where he's gonna have a mop that's dirtied with oil fall on his head, and it's gonna make him look like Eric Draven, really, from the old. That's how they're gonna do the cash in. No, he's just gonna have the short hair. The smile that goes from one, like he just looks like the Pennywise the clown.
Well,
I
and one image where he's got the black marks that go up his mouth, I was like, oh, now they're going to try to do the Joker,
Yeah.
you know?
Um, I just, why can't you just take something and give? You could have taken the book because the book was just enough different, or the original movie was just enough different from the original book, and just adapt that. That's why like why
I,
TMNT 1990 works so well, because it was a hybridization of really what the book was, the Mirage comic book versus the Turtle, the original cartoon.
yeah.
So it gave audiences that gateway for both sides to love this film. And they have enough like care and love for it to get it done, even though it went through production hell. Um, Even like with RoboCop, the remake, had enough sense to take an idea and modernize it and not completely bastardize the original.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. I liked the remake. I told you that when we first watched it. I was like, I prefer the Peter Weller, just because I'm a 80 cheesy, that's my kind of thing. But for a modern take with technology, the
With
technology that give us a really good looking RoboCop, it was
and
okay.
and making it PG-13, right? Like that was
Well,
the other
see,
that was the other
yeah,
sticking point, right? They couldn't
Yes.
ratchet it up to what the original RoboCop
no,
was,
because
which
ours don't sell anymore.
yeah.
I mean, just like certain actors can't act
That's not
anymore. Wait
true.
a minute. I know Deadpool, but Deadpool's an
That's
exception.
no,
Um,
but there's other
ki-
John Wick.
uh,
John
um,
Wick is a R, and it got four sequel. I
they
mean,
want to make a
sequels.
movie that they can take kids to. Okay. You cannot take a kid to John Wick because the next thing you know, a big brother is slamming his little brother on a table with a pencil. The same arguments can be made for back when Batman and Joker did it and did his little magic act. There were actually people who got injured because of some dumb, but that's been going around since the Looney Tunes. We lost the Looney Tunes. We lost all these old cartoons because dumb kids who had dumb parents didn't teach them the
Yes.
difference
Yes.
between, reality and fantasy. And they would like, look, I'm going to put on a towel tied around my neck and I'm going to jump out my 2-story window and see if I can fly. Well, that's Darwinism. That's weeding out the shallow end of the gene pool. Um,
It's it's sad because there's so many movies that this happens to, and it's like at no point do they have anybody that goes, "Hey, this is a bad idea. This is not going to get us any money." And this is everything would happen with Star Wars after Lucas sold it. It's happening with Marvel right now. It's like no one goes and maybe this isn't going to be a good idea. At what point do we halt production, rethink about this so we can actually make a movie that audiences are going to want? Because that's the thing.
Uh,
You're
they
supposed to sell to your audience, not like, okay, we're going to force feed you this nonsense and we
well, I
want you
mean
to like it.
they start doing that pausing and reevaluating when they start losing money, right?
yes, yeah.
I mean
And then,
Well,
but
that's
then
what it
they always
takes.
make come to the wrong conclusion.
Yes.
They'll
It's
double
it's
down.
the
Let's
it's the
double
it's
down. We
the
were right.
principal it's the principal Skinner meme, right? Of no, it's not me. It's the children that are wrong.
Yeah.
uh
And
Am
and
I the baddie?
it kind of goes back to this this thing in our society where we have to bring our own morals of today back to the past so that we can reinvent what was happening, what we were like, because we need to have a specific image of ourselves in our head, and anything that calls that image into question, we're going to try to fix.
which is
Um,
stupid because those things that happened in the past are what defined us now, made us and brought us to where we are. And
yeah,
you can't forget these things or we're going to be doomed to make the same mistake over and over again. And that's something you've always said, Dad. I mean, I we have to accept and embrace our past and move forward. And if we can't do that, then what's the point? We're gonna go back, we're gonna doom ourselves. We were going back into a Cold War. I mean, come on. And that's not even trying to go political. We are literally going into that same process that we did in the 80s. And
well, if you're going to spend billions of dollars on weapons, you're going to have to do something so you can use them. You don't manufacture something to set in a warehouse until you got to throw it away or sell it to a smaller country so they can blow each other up. But
there was a Vertigo comic that you and Colin were big on too, that had dealt with creating a fake enemy to unite the world.
no,
Yeah,
that's
that
an old
on
trope that's been
yeah,
done over and
I was about
over.
to say there was a
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
named Orwell that wrote a
Yes,
book
yes, yeah, yeah. I
in
know, I
in
know.
1948 that dealt with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I want to discuss something. I mean, before we get all fall into politics.
We're not going to. Just
That
go
we're
ahead.
missing a major element from these remakes, and that is the music, which was a second character in all of these films. The Crow would not be any good without its soundtrack. Think about the first Mortal Kombat movie wasn't great, had a great soundtrack. The music was part of the film. And we now in Highlander, I mean, come on, how can you make a Highlander movie without Queen? You're going to have to find the equivalent band of Queen to make that movie. And what does that mean? It's going to be this hard rock, rah, 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 kind of music, which is going to, for me, take me out of the film. I don't want to hear that stuff. So
You know what you could do though, if you remade the movie, you just use the Queen soundtrack again. Because part of that magic is the fact that like he is immortal. So you either have it to where, yeah, you're telling it in this time frame as is, like our time now, but still, for him, that may have been the music he enjoyed was that period of time in the 80s. So that's why he's going to listen. And the mind of his that it's all playing with the Queen music. But I agree with you. There's nothing, I don't know what you could grab that's going to fit what Freddie Mercury brought to that soundtrack.
even Flash, the movie Flash, would not have been as big a hit, I don't think, without the Queen
Maximum
soundtrack.
Overdrive, Maximum Overdrive with
Maximum Overdrive.
AC/DC. Yeah, I mean,
and Jaws. Come on, that
Star Wars.
few bit, beats of a music made the friggin' movie. It told you so much. Where the shark was, when the enemy, we got to see through the Spielberg, because technology failed him. He went back to an old trope of showing less is more, and then giving us the eye view of the shark. So he didn't have to show the shark. He showed what the shark was seeing. You became in the water with the shark. And that's something that's missing in movies today. I mean, I think sometimes when you have everything you need to make a movie, you lose innovation. There's no struggle, so you get more of this plain Jane cookie cutter stuff. But when you're trying to make a film on a budget, think about all those great science fiction movies of the 80s where they had to do what do you call that type of shooting? I want to say mercenary, but it's not. But it's where you don't get it. You can't get a license. Guerrilla shooting.
Yeah.
You can't go out and get a license. You can't plan. You can't get the permits. You just go out and film and run like hell when the cops show up. And hopefully you got enough good footage to make your film, to add into your film. Those little accidental mistakes that they caught actually made the film become standout points in the film. And everything now is so meticulously set up. So it's there to strike a certain opinion or a certain emotion with the audience, that nothing is given over to happy accidents.
Well, I wonder, like, do we have the same level of composers? And this may be something we need to dedicate an episode to, that create music for films that have the same level of stuff from between 70 to early 2000s. We don't have what
got a few,
huh?
So there are a few,
right? I mean, which one?
And they're usually people who studied under the greats, that were taken under and became apprentices, or loved what somebody like Horner and I don't know. Every time I want to mention a name, it just goes out the window.
Well, you got Danny Elfman, was it Vince DiCola? I think it was his last name. He did a lot of stuff, but one of the things that we would know from him would have been Transformers, the movie. He was the composer for that, but he did a lot of other films.
Yeah, but that's not really recent though, is it?
No, I mean,
No, I just watched one that was talking about two brothers that are composers. and they just did a big musical score that was really great.
Well, the person who's taking over for John Williams,
Williams is another great.
yeah, I mean you have um but like the score for John Wick, all those movies was great, but it fit the film, for what it was. And but I don't even know who those guys are, whoever did that. I never really kind of pay attention to it, and I should have. I mean, there's a lot of composers out there that make great music for film outside of like, let's get the license for this song and put it in the film.
Well,
Um,
see, that's the thing. We've gone away from scores, and now it is all mostly music.
mhm. Well, that goes back to the Crow. How are you going to capture a lot of that music in the score for The Crow was very like grungy. It felt it kind of
It fit the
You're
time.
you're
yeah.
gonna you're gonna get a lot of Post Malone.
Um
I'm sitting here looking
That
at the
guy's got a
top,
lot more range.
oh
the
no,
top.
right.
Credit.
And I'm not trying to dog Post Malone, but the thing is to use him as the archetype for what you're doing, but not making the character actually a musician is stupid. It's like
Right. I mean, they should have just gotten Post Malone at this
right,
point.
if you're
I
gonna
mean,
go
'cause
full, yeah, I mean,
he probably's got decent acting chops. I mean, he's got enough of a profile. He's got enough of the character that is Post Malone, where he might have been able to pull off a better job than what we've seen in this commercial. I mean, because the way I can describe the trailer is this: Stephen King wrote a horror story for DC Comics, who then gave it to their employees and said, "You have to write the script by using the game telephone."
I like that. That's pretty good. Um, I don't know. And I like Friday, of course, the Friday when we're recording this, I might actually put this episode up tomorrow and then try to piece together episode 87. But uh the is Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. Looks fantastic. And it's like, here's a franchise where we got a Ghostbusters remake that was complete garbage, that did not fit the magic and understanding of what these characters were.
Because it was a
And it
gender swapped movie. There was nothing new there to give you anything exciting. And they intentionally replaced the male characters. It should have been a mix, like
yes.
the newest one, the last one, but it wasn't. It was to go all female. You bring in the cast of the original just so you can try to tug at those heartstrings to get people to come in, and it was garbage. Um, you know, Alice enjoyed it. She loves that version. But now that she's discovered the other ones and then the new one that came out, she's, oh, this is what I want. Because now she's the first movie was girls, and she saw that young girls saw them in this role that we can do this. But then when the remake came out, the actual sequel,
Mm-hmm.
you saw that boys and girls can play together. That's what my school looks like. That's how my friends and I interact. You know, it's
Well,
just
and
crazy to me, people trying to force agendas
that's
when they aren't needed.
that's the biggest thing is no one's actually looking at real world society. No one's looking at what other people really see, not this artificial nonsense that's being pushed, the things that don't look real. It's like when you're watching a film that's completely CGI and it's not quite real, so it becomes uncanny valley, so it pulls you out of the film.
No, there's lots of
Well,
versions of the uncanny valley. We know when something doesn't look right. It doesn't
well,
have to be CGI. It can be in
No,
real
right, right.
life.
Right, because
well,
the
and
story can pull you completely out of it because it's not realistic. It doesn't have that ground roots to connect you as the viewer to what's going on.
Well, and then the other important part about what made the Ghostbusters sequel, right, work is because of the fact that it was a sequel, right? It wasn't them trying to go back, oh, hey, we need to figure out a way to recast Bill Murray, right, in this role. It's like, no, You allowed the characters that everyone loved to remain, and to see them grow and to see, what they became beyond the small snippet of their life that we saw. And then you got a continuation into a new generation of characters, which is what you should always hope for with if there is a story that you have told with a series of characters that is strong enough that there is a way to show that continue, like, because that was one of the dumb things about the girl Ghostbusters thing. It's like the fact that what the weird wacky scientist lady, it's like she could have just been what we eventually got, Egon's daughter, right? You could have seen how she would have built on her father's technology, and then the weird wacky stuff that she came up with the little pistols and all that. There would have been like a continuity there that would have fit and made sense and been a cool thing to see. Okay, that's how we got there, instead of her just going, oh, whibbity doo, I can do all this other crazy nonsense for no reason whatsoever, other than I'm a genius, I guess. But yeah, it's, I mean, it's the same thing with this crow thing. It's like, stop trying to go back and walk in the feet, in the footprints of giants, because your shoes are not going to be big
Not
enough.
gonna be.
It's
And
just
that's not
not
to
going to happen.
say that the ladies weren't. I love all of them. I love their movies. They're great comedians. That it just didn't mesh. There was something missing, and
It was
you can.
missing the heart and understanding of what the magic that was created with the original two films. When you have a character like Winston, who is the character that is the everyday man that the audience follows through, and
Yeah, he was our
blue,
audience guide.
he's a
He
blue
was
collar
our.
worker. He would do whatever he needed to do because he was supporting his family and all that. But then you have um what's her name playing the equivalent of him, and I can't remember her name for some reason, but she plays the token character. And that's none of us as the audience are following through with this person at all.
Is that Leslie Jones?
Yeah,
Yes.
Leslie Jones.
Okay,
I mean,
I
she's
never saw the movie.
hilarious. She's hilarious. I mean, in her comedy and stuff, but her character, it's like she is so tokenized. She's not anything that Winston was. And none of the characters are. They all fit this certain archetype for one, the characters they would normally play on Saturday Night Live. Um, that was what was great about, like, with uh Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and uh
Harold Ramis.
Cameron Ramis. They played outside of what their characters were on anything else that they did. Except for Bill Murray was a little bit more, but even his character type was still different than most of the people he
Okay,
played.
no, you're getting it wrong. Bill Murray plays Bill Murray in
Yes, he
every
does.
movie, so he's like Jack Nicholson. He's the same character over and over again, just different costume change.
Yes, he's become the Michael Madsen before Michael Madsen, right? I'm gonna play myself in every movie. But still, the characters had a believability of what was going on. And, that was the cool thing about the magic of Afterlife, is that you got to see the next generation. That was why it was cool to watch the real Ghostbusters and then get to watch Ghostbusters Extreme, because it was a continuation of the original series. You got to see where the characters grew and moved away from busting ghosts, but then bringing on the new generation to take care of that responsibility. And that's what you're getting with these new movies. And it's hard when it's that passing of the torch to the next generation. As
Yeah,
parents, we want to
I
be
want to touch on that point. Go on.
yeah, we want to sit there and go and take the magic of what we love, Star Wars, Ghostbusters, Terminator, things like that we want to pass on to our kids, so they have that same passion and love. There's a reason for it, because it teaches certain lessons that we can't do sometimes with other source material or outside in the real world, because sometimes it's like you need a visual aid to understand what you're trying to teach. There's other things to it too, but go ahead, Dad.
No, I was just going to say, and lost it. But wow. That's why I try to speak it as fast as I can, because the stuff comes in my head and goes out my ears as fast as possible.
Notepad, Dad. You need a notepad? Write it down real quick. Jot it while we're
You
talking.
He mentioned
we
passing the torch.
Passing the
when you were
torch.
talking about the passing of the torch is like Ghostbusters when I was a kid was Larry Storch and oh man, I can't believe I can't remember his name. He's one of my Forrest Tucker and Tracy the Gorilla. And they were the Ghostbusters. All right. You watch that old series, that old show that I watched as a kid on Saturday mornings, and you see Ghostbusters, you see the origin, you see that
The idea, the concept
the
work.
idea that yeah, there's a word I'm looking for, but I can't find it. But that's a good. You see that concept there taken and given to a new generation of people. And Harold Ramis and them are about my age, or were about my age. They're a little bit older. Some of them are about my age, and they had to have influences from that. You know, they might not remember it because it sets in the back of our imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And it spilled out as they were creating something new. And then at some point, there would have to be, for this to continue to go on and grow, a new reinterpretation for another generation. But you don't just cookie cut it and stick it in there. It has to have those strings, that legacy to carry it through, which is like what David was saying. And that's what's successful about the two new Ghostbuster movies. This is a good franchise you can build upon. And as these kids grow up, they have their own families. Guess what? You've got a ready-made lineage there for the next group, because they're not going to give. I'm not, if my dad was a Ghostbuster, I'm not going to go to college to become an accountant. I'm going to follow his lead and I'm going to do what he did. No, Dad, I don't want to do what you did, chasing ghosts and being laughed at because you're a fool. The hell with that.
I mean,
Man, hand me a proton pack.
the big test for this upcoming movie, though, is can they stick a landing without Gozer?
Yeah, I think they can. I love
this is
the
attempt number
monsters in
2.
this. I love all of them.
Well,
They kind of went back to
Vigo
that.
was a good villain too.
Your heroes are
That's-
only as good as the villain. If you don't have a good villain, then there's nothing. That's why people like are always, nobody wants to do other Fantastic Four villains. It's always Doctor Doom or it's always Galactus. Okay, they had tons of other ones that kicked their butt on a regular basis. Let's experiment a little bit.
I
Give
only
me
read the
friggin'
comics where Doctor
Annihilus.
Doom
Come
came in.
on.
I think you're gaslighting me here. I'm pretty sure the Fantastic Four only ever fought Doctor Doom and Galactus, and that
Oh,
was
really?
it.
Mole Man wasn't their plumber, dude.
Did you just
Sorry.
say? Did you just say Mole Man? That's
Mole Man was not their
That's an
plumber.
Incredibles character. Okay, you're screwing me now. I know.
But that's the sad thing is like we have franchises that should be able to continue on with the same magic and care that its predecessor did. It's like, but Star Wars, unfortunately, because of where it's at, can't. Indiana Jones can't.
Yeah, they're gone. It's going to take a whole generation to forget about that, and then you could possibly reboot it.
Terminator is in that same vein right now. It's gone. I mean, unless like Cameron comes in and just does one movie that literally is the future war that bookends his first 2 movies.
And it'd be easy and it'd be quick.
And it would be done.
They break into the facility, Cameron walks up, there's a light switch, power switch, he flips it off, and all of them go, ooh, and that's the end.
Yeah, there you go.
Just can you imagine the sci-fi? I mean, the special effects that would go into that light switch.
We can't even get that. We can't even get like Indiana Jones like that, like James Bond. Where let's just recast Indy as somebody else and then have him do a new story. There's so many great stories that they could tell with certain characters from any source material that they don't, because it's going to be too expensive. Maybe it's beyond the time of the magic window that they had when they were making these films that they could like come up with a new one.
Yeah, and you can't, and it's not even just coming in with a new one, but now they've missed out on their chance to pass the torch, right?
Mhm.
So in that sense, it goes back to like what we've kind of talked about with other stuff before, where it's like, okay, then you're gonna have to figure out how to make something new that's in that vein, right? Like, I mean, uh, for Indiana Jones, you had the Uncharted series. I know it was a video game series, and we're not going to talk about
There's
that.
tons of books.
Nathan
Well,
Drake.
yeah, I know. There's a bunch of books and things out, but that is an example of a popular iteration of that style of character, that within the last handful of years that came to major prominence. Because before that, right, it was Tomb Raider,
Yep.
still similar style character that did similar things that became hugely popular and prominent. It's like there is a template that exists out there that you can go and create characters that are similar to these old beloved ones without going and dredging up their graves and pumping Harrison Ford full of whatever money, I guess, pumping Harrison Ford
I want
full
to
of
know
money
whatever they
and
want,
pushing
whatever
him
he's
back out
drinking. I
there to
want
get
it bottled
right.
and sold.
It's money. It's money. That's all it is.
I think it's Felicity. I think it's
Felissa
freshly squeezed,
Flockhart.
fresh squeezed Felicity Lockhart. A glass of it every morning.
Um,
But
No, it's like South Park's explanation of Magic Johnson.
No, that's what I was. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
yeah.
Just a bunch of money.
$88,000 in cash, directly liquefied and infused.
Yeah, he's
That's
all
right.
like, all right, give me that money. Give me that money.
tap that vein.
That's all it takes.
See, my problem is that there's nothing. They say there's nothing new. Everything's been done. We have to rely on remake. Bullshit. Okay, you had Disney that did John Carter, the first book, out of an 11-book series, which also had games, also had comics, had all kinds of stuff that built upon the mythology. And just because you didn't make you profited, but you didn't make that money you wanted, it's done deal.
They hamstrung that movie, right? Because
Yeah.
of Mars Needs Moms before that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So then
Well-
they toned down all the marketing of it, confused everybody about it. So it could have done better, but it didn't.
But see,
because
even
they got
not
scared at
every
the last
movie is
second.
a success at first. Sometimes the sequel is better than the original, and that's what builds on a franchise. So
Gods of Mars would have been
Wrath
pretty
of
awesome.
Khan is a big thing. Star Trek Next Generation was good. It made money. I mean, not Next Generation. Motion picture made money.
But no one remembers that
It
because
didn't
Khan.
take off until Wrath of Khan.
Right.
Okay, so you could have kept doing those John Carters and built up an audience for that. You could have created themes around John Carter. It was there. There was tons of Burroughs and all these other great writers.
You want to know
stuff.
what though? I'm kind of glad that the Disney version of John Carter ended, because honestly, I want the slightly more violent version of John Carter, because John Carter has probably one of the most epic and awesome betrothal scenes of any story, where it's John Carter comes riding in with his army of Tharks behind him, right? Just green Martians everywhere, murdering everybody. John Carter comes busting in with his best bud next to him into the throne room to go fight, the guys that were taking over. Deja Thoris helps him kill the guy that was trying to take it over, and then they're standing in the blood-soaked floor of their enemies with green Martians burning down the city outside, is when John Carter, goes to Deja Thoris and is like, "Marry me." He's like, "Yes, that's the scene I want for John
And
Carter."
then she could have said, "Oh, speed."
Is that moment, right? I don't need the Disneyfication version of whatever the heck that would look like.
It was John Carter of Mars Needs Moms,
Yeah.
Yes,
I just
that's
wish
absolutely
that Disney had not taken over the film. I would have liked to have seen what Pixar had done before they were sold with that, because that was a Pixar production before Disney, and Disney took it over when they bought Pixar, and then they had to retool it and everything else. And
Wait a minute, are you telling me that would have been an animated movie and it would have
no,
been
it was a
better
live
than...
action. No, this
Pixar,
was supposed to
wait,
be.
wait,
What?
Pixar was doing a
This
live
was
action
this
movie?
was supposed to be their
First.
breakthrough to
Yeah,
live
the
action
first live
movies.
action film. Yeah.
And I would have loved to see with what's his name? John Landis popped in my head. That is not his name. The guy who had
David Koresh.
David Koresh.
He played the
What
guy.
are you smoking?
No, the guy that played John Carter played David Koresh in
Yeah, I know. The head
in
of
miniseries.
Pixar,
Yeah. So
Lasseter, who is
John
a
Lasseter.
fantastic John
Lasseter.
Lasseter, fantastic storyteller.
Uh,
You
you know,
know,
it's the problem is that there is tons of stuff that should be made that should make companies tons of money. You think of like a live action official Thundercats movie or He-Man, you know,
but David would want them to be CGI or cartoon and anime,
It would be so much better. It would look so much better. Like
especially with all the psychedelic shit going on behind Lion-O.
yes. Yeah,
I know.
absolutely.
That would
You're
be
telling
that.
you're because I mean it would be so heavily CG anyway, it'd basically be animated.
What you've been Lion-O got a hold of the catnip.
Snarf.
Snarf's the dealer.
Yeah. But I mean, there's tons of stuff, and that's the sad thing is like David, you brought up Tomb Raider, you brought up Uncharted, and those films were not good. And it's like,
I love the Uncharted. Come on, man. I
how can
thought
you
that was
take
great.
Mark Wahlberg as Sully is not right. I'm sorry. Mark Wahlberg's great. Mark Wahlberg's a fun dude. He's made movies that I enjoy. I enjoy him in the movies that he's in that I enjoy, all that stuff.
David,
Mark Wahlberg is not Sully.
here we go.
God.
Here we go. What? Hey, David,
Who would you have preferred, Tom
look,
Cruise?
I'm your dad.
No.
And
No, both of those are way too young to be Sully.
I know.
I need old, weary of the world Sully. That's what I want.
Yeah,
because, like,
Stop for
and again, Tom Holland. Once again, Tom Holland. He's perfectly fine actor. All those things. He is way too baby faced to be Nathan Drake. It's Nathan Drake. Unfortunately, the perfect Nathan Drake is Nathan Fillion, and he's just way too old at this point to do that. He's almost to the point of where you could almost make Fillion Sully, but he's not.
Yeah,
there
he
yet.
could play Sully, but I'm sorry. Nathan Fillion is called Fillion because he's filling out really big now that he's gotten older.
that's like
I
Bruce
mean,
Campbell.
it comes for Saul.
You know what? No, Bruce Campbell should have been Sully.
Considering that
mustache-
Older Bruce Campbell. Bruce,
considering
an
he was
older
basically
Bruce
playing,
Campbell.
he was pretty much already playing Sully in Burn Notice.
Burn
right?
Notice, yeah.
He
Like,
was.
so, I would have been fine with that. That would
Yeah, I
have been good.
mean, it's missed opportunities like this. So hopefully in another universe, because I manifest this into reality, there's
Everything
a universe where Bruce Campbell.
everything we talk about is spawning billions and billions of universes.
Yeah.
And somewhere out there somebody's going, I'm gonna get you.
Look, like I put in the chat, right now, it is a true statement to say that someone is creating a connected universe of what was
If you
it?
say Disney, somebody's
public-
gonna
no, no,
slap
no,
you
no,
through
no,
the screen.
no.
a public domain children's films turned into horror movie monsters because that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey,
Okay,
the people that
Disney.
made
Thank
that-
you. Somebody,
the people that made that are making a sequel, and they're creating an interconnected universe. There's a poster out there of evil
I
Winnie the
know.
Pooh writing Zombie Bambi with Wendy crawling out of a grave, and like that exists.
because
So-
Mickey, Steamboat Willie version of Mickey was the latest one to fall into public domain. Guess who's getting a horror movie?
Yeah. So again, what I wait for all these different multiverses for ours, I need someone to go and, like I said, just like blow through the filter of that Hadron Collider or whatever and fire that baby up again because we need to reset this thing or set some stuff right somewhere somehow and change the timeline just a little bit. I just need a
Colin.
few alterations and I'll be good.
We need a graphic of you punching, to your right or to your left, and then this other hand coming across the screen where David is hitting him and he falls down.
Oh, like this, and
Yeah.
What? Oh, you don't want to turn on the Hadron Collider? Is that it?
No, you know what? No. I don't want. Could you imagine if that kid is right who came up with that theory that we're all living in a alternate reality because of the collider? We're real, and then all of a sudden we manifest as being people without heads but have asses on top of our shoulders, and it would be just us sitting
like
here
Buttman?
doing this podcast and then going talking.
why am I reminded of Preacher? I'm just thinking of Preacher.
Oh, Arseface.
Arseface. Yeah.
So wait, are you saying that that would be worse
That would
than
be worse to all of a
than the
sudden,
Pooniverse?
especially if you, when you went into this new universe, still remembered what everything else looked like. You were like the only person, and everybody else thought this is perfectly normal. No, that would be
That'd
horrible.
be horrible just knowing that you're the only person that realizes everything's wrong. Like that. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no,
I know.
no.
It really is horrible for me. Everything in the universe is wrong.
You
Colin, you
speak.
okay, bud?
Yeah, just
All right. Yeah.
He's like, what? Yep. Oh, I agree.
Crashing. I'm awake. I'm awake. I swear.
Okay, so let's wrap this up with the last topic real quick, and it's pretty short. The announcement that Macross is coming to Disney Plus on their streaming service, of course. No word if Harmony Gold is going to release any of the Macross series on Blu-ray. We know that Disney has given Sony the rights to be able to publish all of their films and TV shows on DVD or Blu-ray. But this is exciting news for me, being a big Macross fan. The only downside is that we're not going to get the original Macross SDF Super Dimensional Fortress and then Macross Do You Remember Love, at least not right now, because they're too closely tied to Robotech. Any thoughts? Anything to add to this?
Yeah, I can't
I
wait to
might
watch
finally.
him when those Disney uh things that pop up now when you try to watch the Muppets that says, some of this contains offensive language and images, so that warning. I mean, it's the Muppets. Why would you have to put that on there? Every episode. It's not on every episode on the Muppets. I'm just exaggerating there, but there it is on a good vast majority of them.
yeah.
Is
And
Macross really
so
that?
I can't wait. Macross,
There's some
Asian television animation is not the same as American. There are a lot of things that we will consider offensive that is normal for them, and then vice versa. So
Well,
there's
as
going
I
to be
have
some kind of label.
well as I have stated, I've never watched a single minute of either Macross or Robotech. So maybe I will actually finally sit down and watch some of this series and see what all the hubbub is about.
You
dude.
gotta see the thing is
What's not to love
you
about
gotta watch the original Macross.
planes that
Remember the two
transform
movies.
into robots with girls that
Because
sing songs to help them fight giant
because the
aliens?
because I originally watched a robot that turned into a plane that could fly into space and shot a giant base that was plummeting to the earth with a laser so hard that it exploded. So
It
like I
shot it
watched
so
I
hard.
that it exploded
It's
like
so
Wing
hard.
Zero, right? Yeah, the other Gundams also helped blow up the
The
base
colony that was
and
coming down
all
to Earth.
and all that, and
Yeah.
Zero just finished it off. But still, like that was the bar that got set. So going back and watching some of those older, I've gotten better, right? I've gone back and watched some of the original Gundam, which is that old animation style. Once you get used to the newer animation style, you got to reacclimate yourself to the kind of awkward jank of some of the old stuff. But
It's like you're
it's
watching it and you're going, "What the hell was I thinking?" You're like, "Oh gosh, no."
yeah,
Like
no,
watching Speed Racer, where
it's
they reuse film shots.
Oh well,
they re
yeah,
Motion
every
animation.
yeah.
every single race is the exact same footage except they just changed the background, right?
Background, yeah. And
It's like
then
okay,
I always thought that a clutch was the brake, that the brake was the gas pedal, and that when you made a left or right turn, you had to go, "Whoa," Yeah.
right, yeah.
I've been in the car when Dad did that. No, that's not cool.
He did that or
I was
the
watching a comedian on Netflix, and he was describing my life, and I was dying laughing. He was like, "Yeah, I was the older brother. I had to sit next to the door that would always pop open when my dad made a turn, just so the other kids wouldn't fall
All
out."
out. Yeah, you were the doorbird.
And I was dying. I was like, "I know what that feels like." Hold on to that door.
When you're watching Ace Ventura and they're both sticking their head out, him and Dan Marino is like, "Hey Ace, you got any more of that gum?" Because the windshield's completely cracked. It's like, yeah, that reminds me of driving with my dad. I'm talking.
Hey, As long as I could see through the top or the bottom, I was fine. I looked like a turtle when I was looking through the bottom. But I hate it. You get a brand new car, and what's the first thing that happened in Houston? If you
A
went on the
rock.
freeway, a rock
Rock.
off of a truck hits it. And it doesn't just shatter it, it hits it. And then you start seeing that crack grow day after day, and every pothole a little bit bigger. And now
And
next thing you know,
then
it's
it
like,
starts spreading in multiple
yeah,
different directions. Yeah.
it looked like the plague spreading across America.
But I'm excited. I just can't wait. So we'll find out more details later in the year. Of course, this has only technically been announced in Japan, but it is internationally, meaning worldwide.
So if you've got a good what do you call
VPN,
it? VPN, you can actually watch it. Just change your nationality.
no telling if it's going to be dubbed or subbed.
It doesn't matter. Netflix, everything on Netflix is now
Well, that's
original
Netflix.
language.
That's Netflix because Disney, at least with I believe with the Bleach series, had the original cast come back, didn't it?
But Disney wasn't doing it. It was Hulu originally that brought back the new animation, and then now it's over on Crunchyroll where you have to pay to watch this upcoming season. I was like, that bites. It's like a drug dealer. Hey, I'm going to give you the first couple of seasons as a hit for free. But now that it's getting good and you want to see, because this is the final season of the Thousand-Year War.
Yeah.
So if you want to see that, you're going to have to cough up the cash. Well, I guess I will just wait a couple of years and I'll try to remember to come back to it.
At least it's being released on physical media, so you don't have to watch it on the streaming service if you don't want to. And that's what I'm curious about with what they're going to do with Macross, because I want to just own it. I don't care about it being streamed, but I do want more people to get
Exposed to it.
exposed to it, because then I could have more series going forward. Because we know that Harmony Gold's supposed to be doing more stuff with Robotech. When is
The
that?
sad part about all of this is that the only reason we're seeing this resurgence is because of the popularity of the toys coming back.
Well, yeah.
And because they're making a fortune off of selling Veritex at $150 a pop, $200, $300 a pop. So what do? We're going to have to make more of these cartoons so we can hook more people on and we can sell more of these toys.
Give me that money. Right.
Well,
that's how we're going to get Harrison Ford in there.
No, he's got to be ready.
I'm getting too old.
Hold on. Harrison Ford is global. I could see it.
I'm getting too old for this. You know what? Just shoot him.
Actually, you know what?
Give me my jelly donut.
It would probably technically he would probably be Bretai, Dad.
Yeah, I could hear his voice as Bretai.
Yeah. Not global.
I want to play Golden. I actually, you know what? I was just watching the old episodes of Battle of the Planets, which not Battle of the Planets, the Yamato, but I forget what the American version was called. What? Star Blazers. And I was like, how come I look like the original commander? He looks just like me. I was like, and then he dies later on. But yeah, they didn't even call it the Yamato in the original Star Blazers. It had an American ship name.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I did not realize that until I got older.
Battleship Yamato could be a great live action.
It was a great live action. That first live action movie they made a couple of years ago, man, and to get Steven Tyler to come in and do the soundtrack for the movie, I mean, that was a stroke of genius.
That goes back to another episode anyway about live action versus animation. Look at David smiling.
Crazy.
David's like, oh, they're quiet. I'm not going to talk about this stuff anymore.
I still think y'all are crazy.
Fools. You fools. Fly, you fools.
You fool.
You fool.
I mean, like, y'all can all have the wrong opinion. It's perfectly fine. As we need to constantly say on this, right? All statements are our opinions. And y'all can have all the wrong opinions you want. It's perfectly fine. It's good. Y'all go live in your blissful ignorance, and I will continue enjoying fantastic animated features and praying that they continue to be made even
You know
whenever
what?
people at the Oscars are
I just
talking
can't
crap on
wait
them.
for your universe to pop up out of the collider, and it's all gonna look like friggin' Spider-Man and the um, what do they call it? The Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse and
Yeah, that's gonna be your reality. You're gonna walk out of your house, it's gonna be
hey, look, at least when David walks out of his house, he'll be styling because remember how they have that slight slow lag of animation.
That's right.
animation.
Buck.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll be fine with that. Because in
yeah.
that universe, the Pooniverse will hopefully not exist.
The
'Cause-
Pooniverse, huh?
Yeah,
And it's
That's what
like
that
all
voice
that's
says.
what they're calling it. That like
The
go
Okay.
Google this. Okay. POOH, right? There is an H there. Don't just go OON because then
That's where I went.
that's a whole other interconnected universe. There is an H there.
Oh, there's
It's somewhat
definitely
silent.
connectivity there.
Yes. That's definitely a different. It's going to take you to a slightly different site, right? But yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Vinny,
you
the-
won't be able to
So-
won't be able to get there from Texas anymore.
I'm gonna
that's right. Yes.
yeah. I'm gonna say this and we're gonna end the podcast. But you know how it'd be great though is if you take I'm gonna get you sucker and reanimate it with the Spider-Verse animation.
That would be cool.
You want to do? I'm gonna
That would,
get you,
that would be
sucker.
a lot like
The
Black Diamond.
best part of that would be when what's it, Isaac Hayes falls down
My bunion.
no.
Oh.
Isn't it Isaac Hayes who falls down? He's got all the guns on him and everything, and all
Yes,
of the
yeah,
weapons
yeah.
fire off.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of the one scene where what's the name gets out and he's got all the 70s gear pimp and stuff and he's got the dead fish in his freaking
Oh, and his
In the
shoe,
pool.
Gonna shatter.
Yeah, that was a ripoff of Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch. Yeah.
But
How do you feed them? I always, even as a kid, I was like, how do you feed it?
Wayans brothers, man.
And I can remember like there was a movie I watched one time where the guy had goldfish in his bed, and he comes in and the girl they just come back from a party and they're all duded up, and he's like,
The
She's like-
cracker or the fish?
no, the girl is like going,
No. You said
No.
goldfish.
The fish in the
You
bed.
said goldfish, like
there's
the actual
goldfish
fish?
inside the
Right,
real
bed.
goldfish.
Right. The
They're
fish
all
or the
swimming around
cracker?
and looking.
Okay, thank you. There you go.
And
that'd be hilarious too. The crackers
and
floating
she
next to it.
and she's like looking at it, and he's like trying to get all amorous, and she's like, what's the matter? Because I feel like I'm being looked at, and all the goldfish are all looking up, and you see her buns through the clear plastic. Like, wow, the fish are going, they're trying to feed us bread.
I believe the kids refer to it as cake.
Yeah.
Oh, this is getting cut out.
And this is the part in the TV show where you see the guy skid off the road, and it cuts to the classic scene of every car falling off a cliff. Ooh.
What was that? What was the cat's name on the Saturday Night Live? The one that always
Oh, Toonce the cat, wasn't it?
yeah, there you
Toonce?
go. Yeah. Always
Every
driving
episode
car
he'd
off
drive off the
the
cliff.
cliff. Yeah.
Toonce the driving cat, I believe that's what it was called. Every episode.
So what we need to do is do an episode just talking about the all the shorts, like the butcher, Lupo the butcher,
Lupo the Butcher,
Cat came back, and the
what was the one where there was the music
The Lone
shop
Ranger.
where after the guy walks out, he locks the door, and all of a sudden all the musical instruments start to come alive and start playing, and then somebody walks by and it's a cop. He's looking to see what the noise is, and everybody freezes. And then in the morning, when they come to reopen the instrument shop, everybody runs and jumps back into place, and it's like nothing was done. Those were a lot of Showtime shorts, remember?
yeah, because
Back in
some of those
early days of
and some
Showtime.
of those ended up moving over to MTV later on.
Yeah.
But-
There was the Three Golden Hairs of the Devil. There, me and Ray died laughing watching that one. Just because every time she plucked one of the devil's hairs, he was like, ah, and then he'd roll over and go back to sleep. It was fine. What else was? Oh, and then of course that was the the Masked Man
Thank you,
was
Masked Man.
Yeah.
Thank You, Masked Man
I
was
have
what's his name? The
Thank you, Mass
comedian
Man.
Lenny Bruce.
Mhm.
Lenny Bruce. Yep.
Oh,
I
it was
have-
funny because I saw a video with Carson and Jonathan Winters talking about something. It was funny. I have it on.
I just posted a bunch of those because they showed clips of that same episode, but it was broken down.
Mhm.
And then, like, he talked about being a cow, having a farm. He talked about, how he's been with his wife so long that he's now successfully been programmed to Jess Honey and all that. And he's wearing that vest, right? That gray vest. Yeah, yeah. Man, I miss Jonathan when how he described how he became crazy. How did you, Johnny's like, well, how did you end up this way? He goes, well, I was impetuous during World War II, and I went in and joined the military, and I was like gung ho to do everything. And then I got there and realized, uh-oh, I made a mistake. And he had this he went up and he goes, one time we had been called out to go do something early in the morning, and we're dropped in the middle of this battlefield, and he couldn't even see anybody in his face, and he was talking. Then I found my sergeant, or sergeant, it was first lieutenant. He goes, how I found it was first lieutenant? He had a medal on him in it. He polished it every day, so it shined in the dark. That's how I knew it was him. And I went up, well, first lieutenant, what are we gonna do here? He goes, your job is not to ask questions. You just do what we tell you to. He was like, and from that day on, I started acting crazy. I'm going home. And he just forgot how to be normal.
Yeah. Maybe that's something we can do one time is do comedians and stuff. Talk about George Carlin. And
I
then...
watch so much old comedians now, and you got to hunt for them because they're being driven off of everything.
Oh, they are.
And the sad part is like people like Don Rickles and other comedians, they can't exist. They couldn't exist today.
Nah.
You could simply not have somebody who his whole shtick is, burning people. It just wouldn't
Don
last.
Rickles might be the only guy who could keep going.
Maybe I just
But with the way that the society is just all about roasting and trolling and stuff like that, the man was a master at it.
master of it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've even heard people saying that Robin Williams couldn't be aired now, and I'm like, what are you talking about? It seems like anybody who has anything controversial to say has to be removed.
Yeah.
How comedy is where you speak truth to people and you make them laugh and think about it. You tell you tell them a truth, but you do it in a comical way, and they don't even know they're learning.
Right. And one of the greatest examples we had that is gone, George Carlin.
Well, Red Fox, Eddie Murphy,
Red Fox. I mean, but George Carlin was.
Oh, I know. George Carlin was my hero back in the day, and then, of course, I loved so many comedians. My dad was one of the people who got me interested in comedians because he used to buy the albums. That's how you got them. You didn't hear them on the road. You had to go buy the album and play them at home. And then you'd realize, Bob Newhart has a foul mouth.
Yeah. Cow, yeah. Bob Saget. Bob Saget had a
yeah. Oh yeah. And when that goes away, then we've really lost something. And that's why people like Fluffy are wanting to retire. They hit their pinnacle. They know that you go out on top because society won't let you survive beyond that. It's all downhill. And you're going to make something, say something, do something people are going to try to censor you. And what is that called? Where they try to get you
now it's called canceling.
Canceling. And they're going to try to cancel you. I mean, freaking, I loved Andrew Dice Clay. I mean, I loved him. And when he was just taken away because of, he said something that made a few people angry, I was like, well, that was what my era was growing up about. You said things that made people angry and you made them think. Then we talked and then we came to, compromise. Now I don't want to hear what you say. I don't, my opinion rules. The laws only work for me, all this other stuff. And I'm fearful because this is Dad Podcast. I'm going to say that I'm fearful for my grandchildren and the world that they're going to be growing up into. Because it is not the world I grew up in. You're
I know. I just
muted.
realized, and I
I
know
thought you
that
were trying to do a Japanese joke.
what are you talking about, Dad?
Damn you.
Anyway,
Wrecked them. I hardly knew
but it's
them.
not even what I grew up with, Dad, and none of it is anything that like any of us, on at least the four of us here, grew up with anymore. Because it's
Yeah, but you do your best to make people think I'm a horrible father because you tell them
no,
all
I
the
do
stuff I
not.
let you
No, I do
watch.
not, Dad, because you
I'm
helped
joking, son.
making me and Ember
Like I
functioning
told
members of society, good
what
parents.
I told y'all when y'all were young, that this is fake. This is all special effects. These are things. It's not reality. You have to raise your children to know the difference between what is real and what isn't. And that is something that is not happening today. We are now teaching our kid that reality is whatever they want it to be. Well, try that by going running at a wall at 100 miles an hour and then trying to stop yourself with nothing but your arms. You can believe it all you want. The reality is going to be something very different.
No, but remember, with this day and age, it would be using your airbender powers to push against the wall with your hands like this. Then, as your hands and fingers just break as you smash into the wall. But
Or take out a big section of wall and
yeah.
parents go, "What were you thinking?"
Yeah, because if that was reality, I would just go and paint like tunnels on walls and just make somebody
Yes.
mad and just run right on through it.
There you go.
Because I believe it exists. It's really a hole. I'm going to go through, and when they run up, they don't believe it. And then all of a sudden it'll peel down and fall on them.
There's a difference between believing in something and, but then not understanding the realities of the world that you live in. It doesn't matter how much you think that you can stop a bullet with your mind, it ain't gonna happen, you know. But no, but remember, it's the thing you used to say, Dad, about like when no matter how much you want something to happen, if it's not within reality of it to happen, like I want to fly. No matter how hard you try, you're never gonna fly.
Want to fly? Here's a plane ticket.
Yeah, here's a plane ticket.
Yeah,
Exactly. You can't.
well, son, it's time for you to learn a lesson. We're
Yeah.
gonna go up. You see that mountain up there? I'm gonna let you. Here's a magic cape. I'm gonna let you fly.
But before you do
Fly,
that,
but I want you to know that I've added. I'm your beneficiary in this life insurance policy of $1 million, and I want to thank you for all that you've done for the family. What? Push. It sounds like Goofy falling down from a great height.
hey, you could be Hayachi throwing your son off of a mountain cliff because you think he's possessed by a demon, which he ends up being. Tekken.
I know. I just was thinking that. Who was the comedian we just recently lost? He was from the Larry Sanders shows. He was in
What, Shanley?
not Shanling, the other one. He was also the prince in Men in Tights.
Oh, Richard.
Richard Belzer. Not Richard Belzer. Richard.
Yeah, I was saying not Belzer. Um,
Richard Lewis.
Yeah.
Lewis. I loved him and his droll delivery and all that stuff. And I always wanted to see him do the voice in a cartoon of the scene where Abraham is going to sacrifice his son because he's been told. And so you add in the Arabian Nights story where the woman has to keep telling Scheherazade, I think, keeps telling the prince or whoever, has to tell him a bedtime story every night, which puts him to sleep and makes him happy. And then next night it's going to happen again. And she keeps doing it where he's like telling one-liners to stop Abraham from plunging the knife at him. And finally Abraham's like, forget about it, and throws it and go walking off to go get a sandwich somewhere. That should have been on History of the World.
All right, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. We will catch you next week. Until then, have a great one.